Okay, so this is the actual block of apartments that I used to live in. It's changed dramatically since obviously the war. It never used to look like this, it was always in good order. This was an affluent area. It was an area where directors lived, where important people lived. And unfortunately now, in this present building, there isn't one person that resides here that used to live here before the war. Okay, I've actually never been inside this block of flats since the war. I'm not too sure as to why I haven't, it's just been something that I've sort of avoided. So it's the first time I'm going to step in to actually see how it is and what difference, what changes have been made, what's changed, if there has been any changes. Obviously all the surnames are very different. This is the basement where we hid during when we were being bombed and sort of grenades were falling everywhere. It's actually open. It's not as clean as it used to be, but this is where we all used to hide when the sirens would go off. This is the particular cage that my family were sort of hiding away in. As you can see, it's very dingy, damp. The windows used to have crosses, like kiss marks across in case we got shot at, and the glass would shatter.
How are you feeling, Belma?
A bit strange, to be honest. Very emotional. I honestly don't know why I haven't stepped foot inside this building before. No, I don't know. I can just remember, actually, when the sirens were going off and my mum saying, you can only take one doll. And as a child I didn't even realise what was going on, and I remember just crying because I wanted to take 2 dolls. And I brought 2 dolls, and I remember just sitting there playing with these dolls, oblivious to what was going on around me. I didn't understand the implications of war, the implications of what was going on around me. I didn't understand the dangers surrounding war. I was just an innocent child.
I'm in the basement with Belma. This is a really strange atmosphere. I mean, I knew that I'd be here and, you know, that I might find it a little bit emotional, but I didn't realise that the minute I stepped foot into this basement, it was an overwhelming feeling. You know, you can just feel something. It's very difficult to explain. Maybe part of it is the fact that this is quite dark and old and it's cold. And there's cobwebs everywhere, but I think the main thing is there's some sadness that you can feel, like they're like cage-like compartments almost. And when you look inside, they're tiny. I mean, they're only a few feet, maybe, you know, that's maybe 6 foot by 2 or 3 feet. And for a family to be, you know, in there and having to hide out is very difficult for even me to try and imagine what Belma must have gone through, and not just Belma and her family, but hundreds and thousands of people all over Bosnia. It's just really heartbreaking to know that so many people suffered, so many people died, you know, and it's just putting into perspective how fortunate we are in England, and how Belma's life has really changed, you know, since the war and since having to leave Bosnia. It's like something out of like a horror movie. you know, just coming in, it feels like some sort of dungeon.
It's actually scary now that I'm actually a lot older, how easy it is to break these doors. I mean, and this was the only shelter we had.
So when would you come round here then? Was it mainly when?
What would happen, usually we'd all be sort of getting on with our everyday lives in the flats that we used to live in. However, as the war progressed, we had to sort of keep coming down a step. We were on the 5th floor, so we had to keep coming down and down in case grenades were to fall on top of us. So the sirens would sound as soon as the grenades were actually falling. There would be a siren sound to warn us, so we'd all run down these steps all the way down whilst being shot at constantly by snipers, and we'd run into the basement for shelter, to hide, to protect ourselves.
And how long did you have to stay here for? Just until, you know, do you
just
remember?
Just until we could stop hearing the sounds of sirens. Sometimes it'd be days.
Really?
Really.
You'd
Sometimes
have to spend
it'd be days,
days down
and
here.
I mean, some people were prepared and they had, you know, cans of food in there, and others would just run out for humanitarian aid, rations.
So you just, I mean, you'd share the food with people, or, you know, everybody kind of work
because
together?
we were a close-knit community, as I've said many a time before, this building in particular, people who lived here, no matter what their beliefs, their religious beliefs, their ethnic backgrounds, they were very, very close. So that's why they were more than willing to share food between us. And I can remember actually they were so careful. It's as though they'd accepted what was going around them. They were so careful as to how much we ate. So we'd know that we could have this much bread and this much water at certain points in my life during the day. And now I think, gosh, how lucky am I? And these doors are doors that the men within the building came together and made to protect us from bullet wounds, from shots, because snipers were shot. As you can actually see, there are many shots. So whilst we were running down the stairs, we were constantly being shot at. The snipers had heat sensors, so they knew where we were. In fact, I remember constantly through the windows, because there were only windows upstairs. They only had time to make these doors. My father was one of the people that built these doors. That was their way of protecting us.